Many years ago, many decades ago, a very famous author, best-selling works and novels, became very wealthy and famous. But in his 50s, he writes, "Why am I here? Where am I going? What is the purpose of it all? And what is it that I am doing?" This moment that he experiences in his 50s, he's a non-Muslim man, is what we call the crisis of meaning. This crisis of meaning, the search for purpose, not knowing why I'm here, is the greatest cause of depression and sadness, anxiety in the 21st century. There is a word sociologists and the scientists, they give to this. Living a life where there's no purpose and no meaning, they call it nihilism. It's a belief system, a belief of no belief. Why are you here? No clue. Eventually this catches up to you. People don't find meaning in their life. They don't find purpose in what they're doing. They don't find meaning in their suffering. It drives them to the point where they're ready to go and give it all up. The question of purpose is the greatest question, of course, in all history. But right now, it's a question that many people struggle with. I'm going to start by asking you all a question. What is the difference between human beings and animals? The human and the animal kingdom. What is the difference between these two creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The difference between animals and human beings, all the scientific, biological, physical, chemical, sociological studies of animals. First of all, there are many similarities between humans and animals. Animals communicate. Animals can reason. They can work out problems. Animals have compassion, they have empathy, they help each other, they fight with each other, they compete, some dominate the other. You see two deers with antlers fighting. Why are they fighting? They're fighting for a female antler. They make decisions on who to reproduce with, who to mate with, where to hide, where to live. They make decisions, they reproduce, they communicate, they reason, they have emotions. But everybody knows there's something fundamentally different between us and them. There is something that Allah granted human beings which He did not grant animals, which is the question of why. The ability or the desire for meaning and purpose. Animals survive, they reproduce, they eat, they drink, they compete, but they never think about why. You don't have animal places of worship, animal universities, animal libraries. You don't have animal existential crises. Why not? Because animals are not, they don't have that capacity, that higher order consciousness that Allah gave human beings to ask why. And this is the essence of what Allah gave human beings, something that He did not give anybody else. Allah says, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. O Muhammad ﷺ, they ask you about the soul. قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Tell them, the soul is from the secret, from the commandment, from the matters known to Allah, and you will only be given little knowledge of it. Animals are conscious. But are they aware of themselves? Are they aware of their ideas? Do they ask why? Do they yearn and search for purpose and meaning? No. That is something Allah granted to humans. Now, if you look at everything in the universe around us, you can tell when something has a purpose. And it's usually by design. For example, look at this handle on this door. It's different from other door handles, right? When you see the handle on this door, what do you think you need to do to the handle? Push it down, right? Why? Have you seen any other type of door handle? Okay, there's ones where you have to pull. There's ones that you have to twist. Okay, there's ones with remotes. Yeah, when you see a door with nothing to pull, push, turn, you got to look for a button somewhere. Like the lift, for example. You go to the lift, there's no handle nowhere. So you know, by design, you can't turn, you cannot pull it open. Anybody been into an old lift, those ones with that you actually have to pull open? Yeah. If you look at the world around you and any object created by human beings, manufactured by human beings, you can tell there's a purpose by design. It's been designed in a way to do something specific. To be pulled, to be pushed, to be lifted, to fall, to radiate, to insulate, to be soft, to be hard, to be harsh, to be frictionless, etc., etc., etc. So look at this microphone, for instance, that I'm holding. You can tell it's been designed in such a way for it to hold up this. But at the same time, it's been designed, you see this enclosure at the top for the microphone to move up and down. For you to move this up and down. It's been designed with flexibility for this particular motion. Where you see purposeful design, you see intention, you see deliberate design, not randomness. Many people, when they think about purpose, they don't realize that to understand we have a purpose, all you need to do is look at the world around you. And Allah points this out frequently in the Qur'an. Allah asks us to look at the world around us to reach the conclusion, it could not have been created without a purpose. Every single thing around me has a purpose. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم. Those who think of Allah standing and sitting on this and on their sides. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Allah describes that there are people who think of Allah standing, sitting, and on their sides. And they think deeply about how this universe was created, and then they reach a conclusion, oh Allah, you must have made all of this for a purpose. Just like I can see that door handle was made to be pushed, that door handle was made to be pulled, this was made to hold something. I can tell this world was made with purpose, not random. Not very long ago, a couple of centuries ago, one biologist came up with the idea that this universe was just a series of random events. And that everything we see in the world around us was just a series of random events with no planning, no design, just like my kid scribbling the crayons on a piece of paper. His name was Charles Darwin. What Charles Darwin did when he went to the Galapagos Islands, he observed birds, he wrote about natural selection, about the idea that over time animals adapt, their beaks lengthen, they develop physical features. What he was observing was a very natural phenomenon, that the creation of Allah adapts to its environment. But the conclusion he made was a huge jump because of a certain idea in his mind, which was the idea that there was no purpose and no meaning behind the world. And he used his theory, the theory of natural selection, to create this idea that everything around us has no purpose. Just imagine in the desert that I tell you that in the desert, the sun melted the sand into silicone, and the sand came together in a wind, and over the course of hundreds of years it formed a very sophisticated iPhone. Would you believe me? Most of you would not. A series of random events cannot create something so sophisticated and so purposeful and so intentional. And so Allah in the Qur'an frequently tells us, look around you and realize, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ. Everything Allah created, there's a purpose to it. One of the things Allah, and the question you and I have to ask when we look at the creation of Allah is, why is it this way and not another way? For example, I said, look at the handle of the door. You can tell it's been made to be pushed down. You should ask yourself, what about the knobs? What about the door handles? Why was it made this way and not any other way? Surely there was a reason it was made this way. It was purposefully designed. Similarly, can you tell me something specific Allah asks us to think about in the creation of Allah? And He asks us, think, why did I make it this way? Why not any other way? Can you think of some questions Allah wants us to ask in the Qur'an? Okay, why did Allah create the sea in such a way where they don't merge, the salty and the unsalty water? مَرَجَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ يَلْتَقِيَانِ بَيْنَهُمَا بَرْزَخٌ لَا يَبْغِيَانِ. The seas mix, but they don't merge. You have to ask, why? Why this way? Why not any other way? The bee and how it collects honey. Allah asks us in Surah An-Nahl, think about the bee and the details of how I created this bee. From its stomach, where your excrement comes out, honey comes out of this being. Why doesn't honey come out of your stomach? I made it differently for a purpose, for a reason. The sky. Why doesn't the sky collapse on us? أَفَلَمْ يَنظُرُوا إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَوْقَهُمْ كَيْفَ بَنَيْنَاهَا وَزَيَّنَّاهَا وَمَا لَهَا مِنْ فُرُوجٍ. Why don't they look at the sky and ask themselves the question, how was it made? Why is it the way it is? And it has no cracks in it. Ask yourself, why? Why don't they look at the birds in the sky and ask yourself the question, why is it gliding? How is it able? How are these wings aerodynamically designed to glide in the sky? Human beings took thousands of years to develop the aeroplane, the aerofoil, which copies the design of birds' wings. Why is it able to fly? Why did Allah design it in this way? And if I jump off the stage and I flap my hands, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to have a nice chin fracture afterwards. Why did Allah design it this way? And why not any other way? Why is it that when you enter the water, suddenly you rise to the surface? There's a force pushing you from underneath. When you jump in the water, why don't you just sink to the very bottom? وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ الْجَوَارِ فِي الْبَحْرِ كَالْأَعْلَامِ. One of my signs, Allah says, is the ships that sail in the sea. إِن يَشَأْ يُسْكِنِ الرِّيحَ فَيَضْلَلْنَ رَوَاكِدَ عَلَى ظَهْرِهِ. If I wanted, I would make there be no wind so these ships would never move. If ships could not sail in the sea and could not go from one place to another, what would happen? Supply chain finishes. The meal that you ate before coming here today for lunch, you had Filipino cucumbers, Indonesian mangoes, Your wheat comes from somewhere, your cucumbers come from somewhere else, your potato comes from, your orange, you would have nothing. You'd be eating fish and chips every day, mate. Without ships, there's no supply chain. Till today, with aeroplanes and submarines and all of this cool technology, we still rely on ships for trade, for cargo, for travel. Allah says, do you know, I could have sunk all of them, no floating business. I could have made there be no wind, so nothing would ever reach you. I designed it this way. It wasn't random. It had a purpose. Allah challenges us and He asks us the question, why don't you look at my creation and think, why did I make it this way when I could have made it a million other ways? I made it this way for a purpose, for a reason. One of the sad effects of the modern world that we live in is we are so disconnected from the creation of Allah. So use some of these questions. The next time you leave the house, the next time you walk, look at the world around you like a 3-year-old. What do 3-year-olds do? They wonder. Baba, why is the bird in the sky? Baba, why is the fish in the sea? Why can't the fish fly? Why can't the bird swim? Baba, why is it that horses just listen to us? Why don't they just stamp on us? Ask the questions like a 3-year-old asks questions, and it will increase your iman and make you realize, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ. Oh Allah, you did not create this for no reason. You are the most phenomenal. You are the most amazing. Far beyond you are from what they attribute to you. What was the purpose for Allah's creation of the human being? There's 4 purposes Allah created the human being. Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I only created jinn and humankind to worship me, not for any other reason. But there's other reasons mentioned in the Qur'an. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. I created life and death to test you which of you is best indeed. So one of the reasons Allah created this world and everything around us, and the skies and the earth and the animals and the job opportunities and the economies and the wars and the peace, is to test you. That's one of the main purposes for the creation of human beings, to test us. Number 2, somebody mentioned here, He created us with the fundamental inclination that we desire the meaning and we desire purpose, and the ultimate purpose that we can aspire to is the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nothing else satisfies us at all. Everything else depresses us. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. Whoever turns away from my worship, you will be miserable. If you don't fulfill your purpose, you will be miserable. So worship. The second one, to be tested. And so one of the purposes for the creation of human beings was that Allah made us, not animals, not birds, not bacteria, not jinn, the representatives, the custodians. We've been charged with a very specific task on this earth. What's that task? There's 2 tasks. Allah says in Surah Ash-Shura, أَنْ أَقِيمُوا الدِّينَ وَلَا تَتَفَرَّقُوا فِيهِ. I put you there to establish this religion, and do not disunite, do not fight internally about it. That's the first thing. Establishing the way of life of Allah prescribed on this earth. That's one of our core responsibilities. But there is another. One of the core purposes, Surah Hud, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, هُوَ أَنْشَأَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُم فِيهَا. Allah put you here and He wants you to build this place up. He wants you, He desires you to build this earth up through agriculture, through technology, through physical buildings. But everyone's building on this earth. What kind of building does He want you to do? Can somebody tell me in the Qur'an the name of someone who was a brilliant builder, but he was building for genocide and destruction? قال يا هامان ابن لي صرحا لعلي أبلغ الأسباب. Fir'aun says, Haman, my chief architect, build me a building so that I can reach the skies. أسباب السماوات فأطلع إلى إله موسى وإني لأظنه كاذبا. I want to build such a huge tower that I can see the God of Moses and I think he's a liar. Look at the civilizations before us. Did they not build? Name me the civilizations who built huge and beautiful things on this earth. Ad and Thamud, the pyramids of Egypt, the Mesopotamians, Stonehenge, Rome, the Colosseum, Petra in Jordan, the Babylonian kingdoms in Mesopotamia. Why did Allah leave these things on earth for us to see? For us to realize, I want you as human beings to build on this earth. But there were people before you who also built on this earth, but they did it to their own demise and their own destruction. Not long ago, in the last few centuries, a book was written. And this is a famous story that all of you know. And it is a story of how a human being can create something or make something with their own hands that leads to their own destruction. What's the story? The story of Frankenstein. The story of a man who puts together an arm from here, a leg from here, a torso from here, wires it up in his lab, and creates وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, human being cannot even create a fly, another human being. Develop some advanced creature, and this creature then causes their own destruction. One of the purposes Allah created us on this earth is to build on this earth, but not to build at the expense of the afterlife, but to build institutions that will then allow society to flourish. So Allah created us to test us. Allah created us to worship Him. Allah created us to build on this earth. And the fourth reason Allah created human beings is to have mercy on us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an that His mercy exceeded everything, and that is the reason He created us. You see, part of the reason Allah created human beings is that His names and attributes, the most merciful, the creator, these are His attributes. And Allah manifested His attributes by creating us. We are the symbol of Allah's mercy on this earth. In a world of death and destruction and crisis, the human beings are the hope to be the source of mercy on this earth. So Allah created us to test us, and He created us to build on this earth, to build in a way that will allow society to flourish under the oneness of Allah. Not to build Frankensteins, but to build the way Allah intended for us to build on this earth. Allah created us to show and to exemplify His mercy on us. These are the four main reasons Allah created human beings. But